Welcome back to the channel, everybody. My name is Travis and I'm here today with my lovely girlfriend Sarah. So we're here today to review the Durston X-Mid 2 Plus Pro version. So we're going to go ahead and go over the good, the bad, the ugly, show you guys some of the features, talk about the price, stuff like that, and give you guys a good overview of the tent. This is a trekking pole style tent, so it does utilize the two trekking poles, as you can see from the geometry. It is meant to be an ultralight backpacking tent. It is made out of a dyneema composite fiber. So the claim that Durston makes, and I think it's accurate based off the research I've done, is that it is the lightest trekking pole style tent on the market that will fit two wide sleeping pads. So meaning two 25-inch wide sleeping pads, which we both use, and that's the reason we got it. So if you're looking to drop your pack weight, you already utilize trekking poles, this is a great option. All in all, this tent comes in at about 24 ounces. That includes the weight of the tent, the stuff sack, as well as the 4 stakes that are required to pitch it. You can use as many as 12 stakes on it if you want, but right now we actually have like just the 4 main stakes, and then the only other ones we have are for the doors right now. So this is like a 6 stake pitch, but there are additional guy outs where you could use up to 12 stakes. A couple of key notes about this particular tent. So again, it is dyneema composite, right? But there is a sill floor. They call that their woven floor. We got that one mainly just because it's hard to get the dyneema floor version. They're out of stock. They've been out of stock for a while, and it's not going to be available until after the trip that we planned on using it for. So you're adding slightly less than 2 ounces with the woven floor, but in theory you're also getting a little bit more, abrasion resistance, a little bit tougher of a floor than if it was made out of DCF. But just be aware, they do have both versions available. Durston prides himself in having very spacious tents. So there's a couple things I like about it. Unlike most trekking pole tents, you guys can kind of see your zippers for your doors are right here. All the zippers are YKK, and they are, quote unquote waterproof, or at least water resistant, right? The thing I like about this tent is you see, here's how you get in, right? Where the door's at. The trekking pole isn't in the way of you actually getting in the tent. And then another thing I like, you guys can see the fly has these magnetic toggles, right? And an industry first, according to Durston's website, is he's the first to have the mesh also have a magnetic toggle as well too. So I'm going to have Sarah go ahead and demonstrate how easy it is to get in and out of this tent, without a trekking pole being in your way like a single pole design. All right, Sarah's going to go ahead and jump in there for you and be my guinea pig. But I know this sounds like a silly thing, guys, but sometimes trekking pole tents, see how easy that was? There's no trekking pole in the way. You can fold up that door or fold up that mesh and just go ahead and use that magnetic toggle there, and then the door is mostly out of your face. So Sarah can just sit right there and, not have the door in her face. And some of you guys, that haven't used a tent like this might laugh, but it is actually a very ergonomic feature for sure. Like, you don't feel like you're as cramped, getting in and out of the Durston as you do like other, types of trekking pole tents I've found. The tent looks, pretty much the same on the other side. You do have 2 full vestibules and 2 full door entrances on both sides. And then, like I said, you still have that trekking pole out of the way of your entrance on both sides. You guys do have 2 vents on both sides, okay? Nice and easy to use. They just use Velcro, okay? So you do have those vents. Last night we slept with, the fly pulled back like this. It's a very well ventilated tent. We didn't get a single drop of condensation on this tent whatsoever. And then also over on this side, just like the other side, you do have those magnetic door toggles for both the fly and the door as well too. And then as you guys can see here, Durston does make a footprint, okay, that integrates into, you can see how it's attached right there to the actual tent itself, okay? You can purchase that from them. Yes, it does add a little bit of weight. Do you necessarily need it? Maybe not, but you know, these tents are $600 or $700 depending on, you know, what option you get, and we just elected to go with, you know, the extra couple ounces for the protection. And then Sarah's going to be laying out our sleeping pads here, which are both Nemo tensors, and they're both 25-inch wide pads, and you guys will be able to see how well both of those wide pads fit inside this tent. I want to go ahead and show you something with dyneema so you guys can kind of see that orange pad in there, right? So, you know, dyneema is a little bit transparent. Sarah, can you go ahead and get your hand somewhat close to the fly and wave? Go ahead and wave. See? So if you guys are like, you know, super weird about like privacy or whatever, you know, dyneema may not be a good option for you, but guys, there's some serious advantages to dyneema. First of all, the weight. Like I said, this tent is about 21 ounces, and then, you know, the trail weight with the stakes and with the stuff sack comes out to about 24 ounces. So for a shelter that you can truly fit two people in, the weight is, you know, absolutely amazing. You're talking 1.5 pounds. And, you know, the advantage of dyneema, guys, we're supposed to get a little bit of rain today. You know, dyneema is easy to clean off. That fabric does not absorb that water, so you can just take like a little shammy, you know, a little cloth, microfiber towel, something like that, and just wipe this thing clean every morning, you know, if there's rain or condensation or whatever, and, you know, pack up a mostly dry shelter. Now we got some of our gear put in here. First of all, you can see the vestibule is very spacious. You'd have plenty of room to put, you know, 50, 60 liter pack in there. That's just my frameless Z-Packs. It's only a 38 liter, but you do have room to put a much bigger pack in there. But as you can see, it's very spacious as far as like the peak height. It's about 49 inches. So, you know, if you're an average sized person, you could definitely, you know, sit up in there without having your head touching the, the top of the tent. But there's Sarah hanging out. Again, there are two wide Nemo tensors, and as you can see, they do both fit. I think Sarah's actually got a little bit of extra room on her side. She's stealing all the room. But one of the other cool things, guys, because of the geometry of the tent, you can see there's actually space for gear, you know, up here. And then in the opposite corner, a space for gear down there. Like I said, the vestibules are large, and we do have two full-size wide pads. So total on the inside, the floor width is a full 52 inches, so you can fit those two wide pads. And then lengthwise, it is 7.5 feet exactly lengthwise. So they say that it comfortably accommodates a hiker up to 6.5 feet tall. And, you know, they say that you can fit two people who are over 6 feet tall in this tent comfortably. I think Sarah's about to take a nap, but as you guys can see, there's actually two mesh gear storage pockets on each side. Now, the tent is set up to where you can sleep, you know, head to head instead of head to foot, but the only downside is you can see that other mesh pockets over there. So if my head was down here, obviously I'd have to sit up, you know, to reach that gear storage. Not a huge deal, and the way that the tent's designed, you know, obviously they can't really help that, but it does have those two internal you know, gear storage pockets for, you know, cell phone, charger stuff, headlamp, you know, things like that. And then just a couple other observations, guys. So you can tell you do get what you pay for. The quality of this tent is very good. So Durston kind of listed, you know, a couple things on their website that they do that's supposed to, you know, improve the quality control, such as, you know, they hot bond the dyneema, you know, instead of other things like, you know, stitching and other, you know, methods of you know, putting two pieces of fabric together. Apparently the hot bonding is supposed to be the best way. You know, he says he also pre-shrinks the dyneema. So basically it, you know, is supposed to have less wear and tear over the years. You know, as you use the tent, the dyneema is supposed to not degrade as quickly. So, but you can tell just kind of like from walking around it, do you know what I mean? There's not like imperfections, you know, like in the manufacturing and stuff like that you see with a lot of other tents. So far, pretty much everything we've talked about with the tent, you know, I think is a positive, right? I want to show you one of the things that's, I don't know if it's a negative, but just something to be aware of. So because of the geometry of the tent, you guys can see this side of the tent is higher than that side of the tent over there, okay? So Sarah, go ahead and like sit up a little bit on this side. Okay. Now go ahead and scoot back towards the, yep. So you see Sarah can completely sit up on that side where the geometry allows for it. Now go ahead and switch over to the other sleeping pad.
By the way, I'm 5'3".
Yeah, Sarah's short, right? So am I for a guy. I'm 5'9". But you can see her head's already touching. Go ahead and scoot back a little bit. Yeah, see, so now her head and her back is touching that because of the asymmetrical shape. Now, you could fix that by, if you slept head to foot, right? You see that corner right there? That side sits higher, right? So, yeah, whatever the side is with the pole is higher than the side without the pole. So just be aware of that, guys. The taller person would definitely want to be on the side with the pole. Like I said, you could remedy that by sleeping head to foot, but I don't know if you want somebody's nasty feet in your face, you know, after a couple of days of hiking. So just do be aware of that. This is what it looks like laying down. So that geometry isn't really an issue, right, while you're sleeping. Go ahead and put that pillow back under you. So there's maybe a foot between Sarah's face. Go ahead and put your hand back up there again. There's maybe a foot between Sarah's face and the fly, but over here on this side, you know, you have, what, 3 feet or something. So if you're a little bit claustrophobic, you may not want to be on, you know, that part of the tent away from the pole, because that fly will be right in front of your face. And then obviously, you know, if it's raining, rain on dyneema is pretty loud as it is, and if you have that smacking about a foot away from your face, you could find that annoying.
So this is a very lightweight, thin tent with the dyneema, and you can see sun, trees, everything through it. You can probably see moonlight through it. And so if you are not likely to wake with the sun, probably wear a sleep mask.
Just to, you know, show you a couple other things, you do have a full bathtub floor. You do have a full fly that does pitch like very close to the ground. You guys can kind of get an idea of the size of the vestibules here. Sarah has her chair and her 50-liter pack both sitting in the wide part of the vestibule right there. And you can fit those things under there like while it's raining. All right, guys. Well, I think we've covered about every facet of the tent. We've gone over, you know, all the features, the specs, stuff like that. So probably about time to wrap it up. You know, we have a 2-person shelter that fits 2 wide sleeping pads that weighs 1.5 pounds. We wanted something that was dyneema, that was going to do, you know, a good job in inclement weather as far as like, you know, keeping the gear dry and stuff like that. So I do want to kind of talk about the only 2 things that, you know, I could see could be a negative with this tent from my limited experience with it. The first one is going to be the price tag. So the version that we have right here with the sill floor and the dyneema body, that is $670. And if you want to save about 2 ounces by going all dyneema floor, everything like that, that's going to run you an extra $110, and it's $780 for the all dyneema body and floor. So that's definitely like one of the negatives for sure. But if you're somebody who spends, you know, high mileage days, you're doing 12, 15, 20 miles a day, you're spending multiple days on trail, obviously you know that being able to lighten your pack down to, you know, a sub 10-pound base weight is going to benefit you in the long run, make those trips more enjoyable. So obviously that's why, you know, why we got it. The only other downside of ordering from Durston is these are very oftentimes, you know, out of stock, right? So if you have a trip coming up, I would honestly plan on trying to purchase one 3 to 6 months in advance. I'll turn it over to you to share whatever you think about it.
You know, you mentioned how light this is and kind of see-through, and one of the reasons that I opted for a tent in the first place was because I like to change clothes at night and wear different clothes when I sleep, and so I like a little bit of that privacy. So if you have really, like, if you're bright inside with a headlamp, you might be able to see inside a little bit. So that's one negative thing to consider. But overall hasn't been an issue so far, and obviously backpacking, we're out where there's not a lot of people.
and that's also a trade of, you know, dyneema, guys. It's not, you know, this tent specifically, if you got a Z-Packs, you know, if you got a tarp tent, you know, any of the other manufacturers, my tarp for my hammock is made by Hammock Gear, and it is a thicker dyneema. and it's like a camouflage pattern, and it's much darker, and it's still somewhat transparent. So, you know, that's not a trait that's, you know, a flaw with the Durston tent, right? Like, if you're not familiar with dyneema, you're going to deal with that, you know, no matter who you buy from.
So I haven't done it yet, but Durston has videos where, so since this is a larger tent, and like we're going to Uinta where there might not be larger spaces to set up a tent, there are actually ways that they've suggested to minimize that footprint. So one of them is kind of to basically get rid of that vestibule. We haven't set it up that way yet. I really love having these really large vestibules, but that's something else that I thought was a really cool feature, because I was concerned about even just taking it out myself.
A couple other, you know, tents in this tents category are really popular offerings, such as the Tarp Tent Dipole, and the Z-Packs Triplex, not the Duplex, because the Duplex you can't compare because you can't fit 2 wide pads in it. The Tarp Tent Dipole, you can fit 2 wide pads in it, but I believe it clocks in at over 30 ounces. Yeah. It's like 33 or something like that, so it's almost, you know, 3/4 of a pound heavier than this. Now, the Triplex, I do believe, is a little bit lighter, if I recall correctly. You know, feel free to look that up, but it's more expensive, right? And it's just it's a much larger tent, right? So, in its class, really, this thing's unique. You know, there's not a whole lot of tents that offer this capability, you know, and this volume and size to fit those 2 wide pads.
I can highlight some of the things that they're small, but I like really enjoy them, and you may have already mentioned them.
Yeah, go ahead.
One is just the magnetic part of this. I had loops before, like little toggles on there,
yeah.
And in the rain or the cold, it is impossible to try to get those on and off. Also, the net having this extra toggle on it as well is great, which my previous tent did not have. And overall, it just feels like a palace when I'm in there by myself.
Yeah, there's
I just sit right up, and I'm like, I can do anything in here.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. There's way lighter tents for, you know, one person, especially your size. I mean, you can go with the one person Z-Packs. You could go with the Duplex. You know, you could go with the X-Mid 1, right? You could go with the X-Mid 2 and not the 2 Plus. So there's definitely way lighter, way smaller options. I think Z-Packs has a 14-ounce solo tent, right? But there is something to be said for having some room to move around, do things, sit up, especially if you're caught in the rain all day, whereas one-person tents are very, very constrictive. Now, maybe if I was going to do a through hike of the AT or PCT, maybe I would just go with that one-person, you know, tent to save the extra, you know, half, 3/4 of a pound. But I mean, this thing is, yeah, like she said, palace is the right word. If you're in there by yourself, even somebody my size, I'm 5'9", 230, you know, plenty of space in there.
It's very quick to set this up. It was quick to set up my old tent, but it's still surprisingly quick to get this one up and running. And then when you put it away, you do need to kind of fold it and then roll it up so that you're not just like stuffing it into a sack.
Yep, very good point. Dyneema, guys, gets rolled. Yeah. It doesn't get stuffed. It's something with the, you know, composition of the Dyneema fibers. You're not supposed to just, you know, stuff them. You're supposed to roll it. I do the same thing with my Dyneema hammock tarp. Like I said, they rate it for 6'5" is what they say. But if you were solo, though, in here, like one person, you could literally be 7 feet tall, yeah, and fit in that tent if you slept like diagonally, right, like 100%. So, yeah, if you're a taller guy or, you know, a very tall girl, you're in the WNBA or something, maybe this would be a good tent for you. Thank you for joining in, guys. You know, we got a whole bunch of stuff on the channel. If you like this video, you like the gear, we have, what is it, 60-something, you know, videos on the channel in total. A ton of them are trip videos. We're on a backpacking trip right now in Dolly Sods, West Virginia. I've got stuff up in multiple states: Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Kentucky, Michigan, New York, Virginia, Utah coming up here pretty soon. And I've got a bunch of other stuff on the radar as well. Tons of gear review videos. We've got backpacking chairs, backpacks, we've got water filters, you name it, and you know, there's plenty more to come. So if you guys like the video, do me a favor, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. That wasn't even scripted either. Thanks for, we're vibing right now. So go ahead and give it a thumbs up. You know, it helps the video in the algorithm. And then most importantly, guys, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. But yeah, we got a bunch of cool stuff coming up this year that I'm looking forward to. But as always, guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.